are you handing me? You do the intro on this one.
You want to?
No. He's from Philly. You don't even know what and you just threw tissues at me.
Yeah, you see. Yeah, start the show. Is my mic okay? My mic plays okay.
Oh, that we have to stop for. No, your mic's not okay. It's in front of your face.
I can hear you. I know.
The man is. Look,
Peter,
there's the camera.
Okay,
there's the camera.
They're saying I'm counting on them, not you.
That's not your camera. That's Dave's
them.
camera.
I'm talking to them. They're telling me.
Don't talk to them. They're in audio, not video.
Laurie, you're getting a glimpse. It took this many episodes, but you're getting a glimpse.
You know what? That's your default every time. Every time you're wrong, you go, oh, now his personality's coming out. When I'm right and you can't stand it, you go, oh, everybody says, is he like George? Is he like George?
This is just what I want to see.
Really? No, really? Really? No, really? Really?
Peter and I are going to interrupt this argument to bring you another episode of Really No Really. Really No Really, the podcast where Peter Tilden and Jason Alexander talk about things that make us go, really?
No, really.
Oh, good. Thank you. You came right in on cue. Now, this one, when you mentioned this to me, I did a little research because this was a Really No Really where I said, you're punking me. So there are, in our country, ladies and gentlemen, there are many, many kinds of halls of fame. There, you know the obvious ones, the Baseball Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. These are all true. There is a Towing and Recovery Hall of Fame. There is a Kite Hall of Fame, a Pinball Hall of Fame.
Well, you can't go past
a roller derby.
How do you go past the Towing and Recovery Hall of Fame? What's in there? There's Lou's Subaru with it. I mean, what is that?
Yes, that's right. There's a Croquet Hall of Fame, an Insurance Hall of Fame, a Freshwater Fish Hall of Fame. And none of that stopped me in my tracks as when Peter Tilden said, hey, you know what I just found out? There's a Mascot Hall of Fame. Really?
No, really. So this is very exciting for me. This is really exciting. Yes,
it is really exciting for you?
No, it is.
Okay.
It is. And I'll tell you why. Growing up in Philadelphia, and I wasn't the biggest sports fan because I wasn't a good athlete.
Because I'm capable of playing a single sport. We are of the same
it's hard. It's hard. I'm a sweater. Right. My mother would say, don't overheat. They bought me the wrong glove. Oh, it was horrible and embarrassing. That said, anybody who lived in Philadelphia during a certain period knows the iconic Phillie Phanatic. As a matter of fact, when I walked into the building today and you mentioned the Phillie Phanatic, people go out of their mind. He's a rock star. Forbes said he's the number one mascot of all time.
Yeah, but Forbes isn't the number one magazine. So their opinion. That's like when in Vegas they say, voted best performance in Vegas by the hotel that the guy's performing at. That's who voted. Go ahead, finish your thing.
David Raymond pioneered the field of sports mascots as the first person to go out on the field as a Phillie Phanatic. He did 16 years. I don't have to read it. 16 years. He was there for Tug McGraw in the World Series. I was there too. I knew Tug at the time, which is a fascinating thing. The Phanatic changed what mascots were. We can talk later or with Dave about the history. Well, they were actually stagnant. They would just show up and kind of stand there.
Just the guy that stood around.
It was kind of creepy. And let's say hi to Dave first because I want him to be part of this.
Dave Raymond, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
The original
Thank
Phillie Phanatic.
It's weird. My gosh. It is so weird seeing
And you're in the Hall of Fame, right?
The Phanatic is.
It's his Hall of Fame.
Oh, you created the Hall of Fame. Jesus Christ.
Just like you said about the hotel that voted, I created the Mascot Hall of Fame, being the Phanatic was the first one that went in there.
Well done. So, I was going to say, who was the first inductee?
So I guess right before you, Dave, was the San Diego Chicken, yes?
Yes, he was sponsored by the radio station. Right. And he was a kid who raised his hand. He was in the Columbia School of Broadcasting. At the end of the 2 weeks, they said, who wants to get in this chicken costume? You get paid for another 2 weeks. He raised his hand, said, you'll fit the costume. And he went out, and over the next 3 or 4 weeks, he was doing all these typical promotions for the radio, as you might know, Peter. And then they said, hey, go to a San Diego Padres game. It was an expansion franchise. Nobody but the military were going. I remember the players telling me that San Diego was a military base with a beach. And so the chicken was, no one was watching the game. He'd come out, he was drinking, he was chugging beers, he was grabbing women in the wrong places.
Oh my God.
And he was getting away with it. And so all the players were saying, this thing's amazing. And one of our junior executives, Denny Lehman, came back from San Diego and went to Bill Giles, who was my boss's boss, and said, hey, we've got to do this. And he said, do what? He said, well, we've got to create some sort of a a mascot,
character,
and it took him a little bit of time to get convinced, but that's how it all started. And I was just an intern with the Phillies.
The San Diego Chicken, I should mention, would give players the finger, and when he turned around, he'd stop. He would lift his leg on umpires. I mean, he did stuff that was unbelievable that no mascot had ever done before, right?
He taught what's become a really big business now in terms of sports marketing. He taught folks from the team that there's something else you could do besides the baseball game to draw fans. And that means Veterans Stadium was, 63,000 to be sold out for baseball. That's unheard of now. But so Bill was charged with, hey, you got to get people in who aren't baseball fans, and you get them in, you entertain them, and then they become fans. And the Phanatic has been, that signature
Phanatic
piece.
has been 10% of the revenue of retail revenue. 10% of retail revenue in Philly at the ballpark. That's big. That's gigantic money.
When you say that, what do you mean? How did it generate revenue?
Well, there's merchandise.
Other than tickets. Merchandising.
There's merchandising.
Yeah.
There's a number of what you would call direct revenue. So it's merch, it's increased ticket sales, but how do you value the community good? And then the brand benefits. I mean, truly, you could say it's been 45 years. It's $1 billion brand extension. It has the fact that they care for it, treat it like it's a living, breathing entity. The Phanatic doesn't make 2 appearances in one place, and they certainly took care of me. And that's the first step, is the organization has to believe and care about this. It's not silly, wacky, furry. This is a big chunk of what we're going to do to get people.
Well,
here.
Dave, if you don't know the Phanatic, and the Phanatic was the icon of the entire industry, but you were athletic. I remember you used to go on the dugout roof and dance and that stuff, but you also used to tease people. And I always thought, aren't you getting hit in the nuts? Aren't you getting grabbed? You must be getting killed out there. Plus, you're sweating. That outfit is 30 pounds.
Yeah,
how did you not? And he would dance. He would taunt people.
Yeah, I'm familiar with.
Do you know the Tommy Lasorda?
I live in the real world. I'm not just a celebrity. But I don't just appear on TV.
You're as athletic as I am, however.
No, but I'm aware of the film.
Okay, but did you ever see the Tommy Lasorda incident?
I did.
You
do you know why I saw it?
Why?
You sent it to me.
It's research. Very good. I'm proud of you.
Talk about, but Tommy Lasorda attacked you.
Well, the Tommy Lasorda story is a marvelous one. So I'm a keynote speaker, and we have Q&As afterwards, and we call this the Lasorda factor. So I've given the audience a discussion about how you value fun, how you build sustainable happiness, how you make yourself feel better even when things are going bad. And I get up and I say, look, I could say I have the cure for all cancers in the world. All you have to do is just ask me. First hand goes up. Was Tommy Lasorda really mad at you?
Right.
It's just they all want to know that story. In 1979, the Phanatic got to be the mascot to represent Major League Baseball when we went to Japan with a National League All-Star team and American League All-Star team. And it was 6 weeks of performing in front of Japanese fans and Tommy Lasorda was our manager. Chuck Tanner was our bench coach from the Pirates. And I got to go over there. I'm a young kid. I'm 21 years old, and I'm having a great time there. And I decide, I get to the clubhouse early because I got to get ready. And I see all these baseballs there. So I go, I'm signing the Phanatic's name on here. So I sign the Phanatic's name on a baseball. Well, I don't understand what I'm doing is I'm signing in the sweet spot where the seams are. That's where the manager signs. So Tommy has seen this, and I don't know Tommy at all, other than he's the manager of the Dodgers. And so they staged an intervention. The next game, they got to the clubhouse early. They hid in the manager's locker room, and there I am signing baseballs. And the door comes bursting over. He runs, you got screaming at me nose to nose, and I'm thinking, oh my God, Tommy Lasorda is going to kill me. And all of a sudden, Chuck Tanner comes out of the room behind him, and they're laughing. And then Tommy puts his arm and says, look, kid, I get it, but you can't sign where the manager signs. That's where I sign. So that's how our relationship started.
Right.
And when he would go out on the field, he was anatomically a unicorn. He had bowed legs.
If I may, Dave. He was similar to the Phanatic.
Yeah, yeah, but he was bow-legged, Jason, and pigeon-toed at the same time.
I'm well aware.
So I would sneak behind him, imitating him, and then the fans would start to go, oh, because the Japanese fan, it was like I was making fun of the Lord.
Yeah.
And then Tommy would whip around, and then the Phanatic would just go, like nothing was happening. Everybody laughed. And then when he laughed, then the fans laughed. And so I really believe what happened during that tour was Tommy realized he could entertain his ball players. He could have a lot of fun. If he acted nasty to me, especially in Philadelphia, then he could really connect with them. And so every time he came to Philadelphia, I was always doing that. And I kept ramping it up to the point where I got a dummy and I dressed it up as Tommy and I stuffed a pillow underneath it. And then he would say, well, he's defaming the Dodger uniform. And it all came to a head because
Here we go.
he was... He and Earl Hershiser had got into a weight loss competition. Just the two of them said, we're going to lose some weight.
Sure.
Slim Fast comes in. They sponsor it. So he comes to town this day. 2 weeks, he hasn't had pasta. His team is in the cellar. And he had told his clubhouse manager, do not bring an extra jersey of mine. I'm not going to let that SOB get my jersey again. Well, the first game I came out and found I didn't have it. I went out to the store. I bought a jersey and had seamstress put Lasorda in the back. And there I come out with the Tommy doll. And the first thing I see, he's looking at the clubhouse manager. And I go, oh my God, he's gonna kill him because how did get? And then he just stormed out. He beat the crap out of a Muppet. And so my favorite part of this was, it's a big story in the newspaper. It's a big story in the newspaper. It's all over the newspaper. And Stan Hochman, a Hall of Fame journalist, writes a story, and he basically in the story says both of us were acting like children. So I call Stan up on the phone. I go, wait a second. I want you to tell me who was doing their job. I'm the mascot. He's the manager of the Dodgers. He comes out and kicks the crap out of a Muppet. I got him to do it. I'm doing my job. And Stan hangs up on me, and I can only think, here's the Hall of Fame sports writer going, I'm getting called on the carpet by a mascot.
Yeah, right.
So and to this day, it's been memorialized in that video.
What an amazing thing.
Yeah.
To make you feel better, we were the Dodger station over at KABC, and Tommy would get angry at times. And one of the times he got angry at me, and I was reading restaurant closings. And I had mentioned that Lasorda's in the marina was closed for rodent infestation. My general manager calls me and is screaming like I've never heard him scream. And I could hear Tommy screaming at him. And he says, you have to go on the air and apologize tomorrow. So I go on the air the next day and Tommy's listening. And I say, you know what? I apologize for yesterday. It was in the thing, but they're fine now. They're open. However, I wouldn't have the pasta with raisins. And I get a call again. But he actually, to his credit, when I saw him at the park the next time, he laughed his ass off. It was great. But he had that kind of, he would explode.
And you know that it's awful for baseball that we don't have Earl Weaver, Tommy Lasorda, Billy Martin. They're all going to statistics college. They're coming in there and they're just looking at spreadsheets. No one is coming out and arguing with the umpires anymore. They're gonna eventually get robo-umps, and some of that that was entertaining.
All right, Dave, I gotta go back because my partner here always assumes a lot of information that people have. So, as you say, you're a young kid. They say to you, hey, we're going to figure out how to do this. So what were you doing that they picked you?
Oh, that's great.
And how did the character get created, the costume and your take on it?
Well, I was growing up in Newark, Delaware. All I wanted to do was be my dad. My dad was a head football coach there. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He was at Delaware for 50 years, and I just wanted to be him. So I'm at school playing football for him my junior year, and he hears that, I've told him I want to be a football coach. And he said, he's thinking, oh, you're not going to go to a university and stay for 50 years. You can't do it anymore. So rather than saying no, he said, look, I'll help you. But why don't I show you a little bit of perspective? He knew the owners of the Phillies, the Carpenter family. He said, let me help you get a summer job. So 76, 77, I walk in there. Tug McGraw's first one I saw. We ended up becoming very close friends. And I saw him in the elevator. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be a football coach. There was no sports marketing degree. I didn't realize I could actually have a job. I interned with Eddie Wade, who became a general manager for the Philadelphia Phillies. A number of years later, Dave Buck came in and entertained. He's now the president of the Phillies. So I'm like, hey, this is a path for success. I don't have to move my family around. So 2 summers is over. I got to go back to school in 78 to finish my coursework, and I'm thinking the Phillies are going to forget about me. Instead, they call me up in that spring, 78, said, hey, do you want your job here? And I go, yeah, what do you want to do? They said, we need you to go to New York and get fitted for the costume. I went, wait, what do you mean? And my dad said, you do whatever they ask you to do.
And they don't know you as any kind of an entertainer or performer.
I'm an athlete. I mean, I love to dance. I love, the sounds of Philadelphia, TSOP. I'm like into all that. But Bill Giles says in some of the interviews about this, said, well, Dave was kind of a smart ass. And I'm like, I was Tubby Raymond's son, friend of the owners. I'm not going into that office and act like a smart ass. Right. Apparently, I must have done something that
Sure.
I think he's the one that's dumb enough to say yes to creating a Muppet for the Phillies. Same fans that threw snowballs at Santa Claus. Santa didn't have a very good day, but that's another story. So I go yes, and I walk into Geppetto's puppet studio in the Garment District in New York, West 39th Street. Bonnie Erickson is there. I find out she's one of Jim Henson's original designers, because Bill Giles called Jim Henson and said, "How do we do this right? Got to go to Bonnie's studio." I said, she created Statler and Waldorf, the two old men that argue, Miss Piggy and many others, and they measured me, and I said, I go, what do I do? They said, well, just go home, and they handed me the drawing that her and Bill Giles had worked together, and I went, I'm going to get paid to be a Muppet. I couldn't believe it, and I ran into the office. My fellow interns were all from South Philadelphia, and they thought I was nuts, and I said, look, I understand our insecurity. I'm one of our fans. This is going to be easy. And then the costume was delayed, and the first time I tried it on was that night. So you guys can all appreciate this. You're going out on opening night, the curtain opens up, you have no idea who you're playing. So I go to Bill Giles, and he said, look, you need to just go out and have fun. I'm like, brilliant. I'm a college student. I'm like, all the fear had gone off me. I go run out of his office, and he yells, G-rated fun. G-rated fun. So I had this box, and that's what I did. I went out, and I had Daffy Duck in my head, and Foghorn Leghorn, silent comedians, Charlie Chaplin, and I loved slapstick humor. I was a big fan of the Gong Show, which was just starting its first big run. And I just went out, and the first 20 minutes were like, yeah, this is great. And then I thought I was an athlete. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I worked my way all the way down to it was a picnic area back then, Peter, where the most expensive seats in the land was a series of picnic tables so families could go eat there. And I'm jumping back and forth, and the picnic tables, people are laughing. I tripped and fell. They thought it was great. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I have to walk all the way back up the stands to get to my lot and go down the elevator. So when the last out was made, I jumped over the railing into the field to run to get out behind home plate. And people went, oh my God. One of the umpires waved at me. I waved back at him. Then people are screaming. I go, these people are not entertained. They've never been entertained. They're loving every single thing that this giant green furry bird is doing. And I realized if I could break that wall and I could be with the players 1 minute and then be next to you and your kids the next, that really worked. Plus, I got to get to know the players. It went on like that. In 2 weeks, it was a huge deal. And in 6 months, I finally had figured out that, I could watch old video and see, well, that's Dave Raymond. Oh, there's a little bit of the Phanatic there. And then I had a personality that really took over.
But Dave, that's the amazing part to me, especially given now that I know you really had no prep. You had no time to discover the character, as we would say in my business. But what's astonishing to me about watching you, now, of course, the videos I'm seeing is the Phanatic over the years. So you gained experience and knowledge. But you, as someone who was not born to performing in that way, your knowledge of physical comedy, the way you are taking a character whose face is not animated in a way that is moving and giving the impression of expressions and the way you would manipulate the costume to poof out the stomach or to poof, the physical work is so clean and so precise that if you're in the last row of the stadium, you know exactly the game that's at foot. It reads to the person 3 feet away and 300 feet away. I don't know how you had an innate sense of that.
Oh, it's so, what a great, first of all, thank you very much. That's kind. But until only just a few years ago, I wasn't giving myself credit. Then when they were saying, hey, do you want a break? I went, no. Because I didn't want anybody else getting costume because I figured, hey, we're paying this kid a lot of money to be stupid. We can get somebody stupid for less. And I'm not thinking, I just don't have any idea of what's going on. And then, so my mother, when she was 29, I was 3 years old, she went deaf. She had Meniere's syndrome, and she went from a hearing woman to a deaf woman. She ended up becoming a certified interpreter for the deaf. She went out in Delaware and helped young deaf kids understand that their deafness wasn't a reason for them to be whole and complete people. And at 3, I'm being told I need to be in front of my mother because she had a hearing aid, and she needed to look at her and be in front of her. And I had a reporter well into the 80s, so 2/3 of my career, asked that question. Hey, do you think maybe you're good at this because your mom is deaf? And I got frustrated because I thought, well, that's kind of taking advantage of my mom in some way. And I went, well, no, I don't. And then I went home and talked to my mom. She goes, oh my gosh, of course. And you were 3. You were not only were you communicating with me, but you realized I'd laugh and giggle when you did something, and you were doing it your whole life. So Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, it just has so much meaning to me because I had access because of my father to get the job for the Phillies. I was in the right place at the right time. And then, of course, I had 10,000 hours of practice when no one was looking at it like you would go and do Broadway and they're immediately going to be critiquing what you're doing. No one knew what the hell I was doing. They thought some idiot had put this together in his garage and just showed up one night because the Phillies never promoted it, because they recognized that was the best way to do it. Let it go out there and see if it works. And if it's bad, oh, sorry, we didn't mean that.
Right.
Another one of Bill Giles' Kite Man. You need to Google search Phillies Kite Man to see one of Bill Giles' great ideas that was a huge failure but became an amazing success because of the failure. So I was the one who said yes, and so I think that I can look back and give myself credit, and to have somebody like you and Peter who are in this industry, that's also what I thought. Like, oh, maybe like I would go work with the Philly Pops, and I would work with the Pennsylvania Ballet. Like, oh, I'm with real performers, talented people, and meanwhile I'm just, I'm sticking my tongue out and
but to Jason's point,
thank you for the compliment, and not so much Peter. Peter isn't really
to Jason's point though, everybody in the stadium would watch you, and I remember in one of the incidents that you talk about is that you ran out and almost destroyed a marching band's performance, and it turned into a positive, and I remember that. And the moment I remember the most is you getting down, because you used to do this quite a bit. You get on your knees and bow.
Right.
Bow like you are. And that's such a great visual. And then also hold your hand up to your ear.
Yep.
No one else was doing that. And make them chant. The whole 60,000 people chant. And everybody's watching everything you're going to do, because there was so much unexpected about you would walk and march really like defiantly and then stop and see somebody, keep walking, and then go, no, I'm going to go back. No, I'm going to go back. It was like Jason said. It was slapstick comedy from Laurel and Hardy,
and it was really. It's such a key. Some part of your brain is able to see the potential for a comedic possibility instantaneously and spin on it. That's a very unique gift. I know gifted comedians who can't do that. They don't see the potential of a moment and take advantage of it.
I appreciate that. I was doing whatever I felt made me happy.
Yeah.
And I think as a result, the Phanatic does some amazing things in the community that are making people happy when there's no good reason for them to feel good.
Yeah.
So, and you can, and he's doing that. His ability to seamlessly connect on an emotional level with people is an amazing, valuable thing for marketing and branding. But it's also a wonderful way to distract people when they're having a difficult time. And the Phanatic, for the 16 years I was doing it, and now 45 years later, going to all kinds of places you never see, like hospital rooms.
Yeah.
And it is so important for us to value that. So I'm always fighting silly, wacky furry. Here comes Dave. Hey, here's the Phanatic. Silly, wacky. And then I'm thinking, there's so many unbelievable things that are going on with the community. And I really believe the Phanatic helped to unify the city of Philadelphia. And the same concept, see, if in the Phanatic's mind, and there's great shots of the Phanatic in front of a part of the stands that maybe has 1,000 fans in it. And if you zoom in on the fans, there's one thing in common. Most of them are wearing some Phillies garb, the logo. But they're white, they're black, they're male, they're female. Doesn't matter who you identify as, doesn't matter how old you are or where you come from, you're a member of the team in the Phanatic size. Right. And that is, simple solutions to complex problems. That's what I love the most about the work, is that, and it's only the organizations that treat it and do it right. It's not easy to do, but there are a number of mascots out that are doing it, and that's truly the reason for the Mascot Hall of Fame.
So let's talk about, before we get to the Hall of Fame, so you ended up leaving the Real Rolls Phanatic, and then working with other teams to come up with their mascots. You also, the controversial one was Gritty for the Philadelphia Flyers, and we were talking about before you got here. Why was that? That thing took off like immediately,
Yeah.
but not in the great way.
So, I deconstructed the process that the Phillies did. You have to commit to it. You have to believe it both mentally and financially. You got to commit to this is a big project we're going to do. Then you have to sit down and tell your story. So what's the history of your ownership? What's the history of your town? What's the history of your team? What are some of the great things about this sport? What are the phrases, all those things? And I get them to write a story. And then that goes to our designer, and our designer already has an idea. Oh, okay, this imagery will fit. This will be good. And then they go through a series of designs that they select and say, this is our guy. And then we help them with the rollout. And the collaboration is always what works best. It's not. I don't walk in. They say, "Hey, Dave, what is it going to be?" I don't know. Why'd we hire you? Because I just want you have to follow this process, and you have to follow it religiously. Your way, because even though I understood the Flyers and I know Philadelphia, I couldn't do what they needed to do. So I'm watching after they tell the story of a troll that lived underneath all iterations of the stadium. He was a dyed-in-the-wool fan, and he was tired of all the changes in the stadium. Let's stop doing this. Let's just get to hockey. And they caught him defacing some of the new stuff because he was putting graffiti up, but it was always like an old Flyer sticker. That was the story. So they find him. Oh my gosh, he looks like our players. He's unkept. He's got hair coming out of all kinds of orifices on their face. Hasn't shaved. He smells bad. This is our guy. And then when they start doing the drawing, I brought in a designer. They said, "Can we bring in another designer?" I said, "Yeah, this is about doing what you want." And then I'm looking at one of the designs. I say, "That's great." They take it and make it even look scarier. And they told me their whole focus was to build new fans out of young people. And I went to the boss. And I said, Sean Tilger, I go, I get it, but this looks like something Stephen King would like. It's going to eat kids. It's not going to. And he said, "You told us that we're going to." And I said, "Okay, you're right. Okay." And so I was a little concerned. Then I went to the rollout in front of 300 elementary school kids. Not one of them jumped up and ran in terror. I've never seen a rollout where at least one kid runs over to his first grade teacher and goes, "No," nothing. They're all just watching this. Their mouths are open. He's blowing steam out of his hockey helmet. And I'm like, okay. And then I told them, expect all negativity. It's all going to be negative. It might be 6 months. You stick to your guns and show them that you believe it. He's a member of yours. He's one of your family. You're not getting rid of him. It will work. Well, in the second day, he opened up, there's a picture of him skating like, "I'm here." And that's just getting hammered. All the people, ironically, the trolls are trolling him. And finally, the Pittsburgh Penguins feed says, "Okay, LOL." Very dismissive tweet. So Gritty goes, "Sleep with one eye open tonight, Bird." and immediately, "Yeah, he's our ugly. He's not your ugly. You leave him alone." And then the Philly fans rallied around him. And then he got brought on all late night TV. I mean, John Oliver said profanely on his show, "Oh my gosh, Gritty, he just said LOL, and you went right to effing murder." so now, it's good content for late night.
Right.
And and they had a media tracking service, and this is a media tracking service, so for eyeballs, not actual revenue. But he had driven in earned media over $8 billion of that tracking mechanism over 8 weeks. $8 billion of media attention.
Gritty.
I'm doing this thing in purple feathers.
No, we bring Gritty out.
What are we killing
How much is
ourselves
it
to
for
have
Gritty to come in?
conversations?
Well,
All right,
it
let's get down to
depends.
the real stuff. What's it like inside that costume? Hot, cold, stinky,
and
horrible, heavy,
Well,
wet?
when they handed it to me that first day, they said, "You can't wash this," because they were involved in controlled environments on television and film. And okay, so just let it dry, blow fans on it. Well, there were no breaks. It's a game, 3 appearances, a game, then a day game, and then more appearances. And it was like you see these parents and kids' faces. "Oh, it's a Phanatic. I'll come in and give him a hug." And then you walk away and they're going, "Oh my God, what the heck was that?" So I went to my mother and I said, "Mom, it smells terrible." She goes, "You could throw that in a bathtub with Woolite." So I threw it in a bathtub with Woolite. I hung it up. I blew a fan on it. I called Bonnie up. I go, "We cleaned it." "You did? What'd you do?" I said, I threw it in a bathtub of Woolite. It smells great now.
Did I not read that you told somebody to spray the costume with water and vodka?
Yeah, that's true. It's because that's kind of an old minstrel history when they would go on the back, I guess, in the 1700s, and they'd travel in wagons, and they would drink a lot of alcohol partying, and it would spill on their clothes, and they'd say, hey, these clothes smell pretty good. Maybe we ought to do that more often. And it's 2 parts water, 1 part vodka. And so we say, yeah, a couple for the costume, a couple for the performer. There we go.
Looking at David, you wouldn't also know, ready? Because he invents costumes. That he played Irritable Bowel.
That's right. Oh. You have done your research. You've done your research.
That's gotta be.
The man played Irritable Bowel. He was in a costume.
Wow.
What does that costume look like?
It looks like an irritable bowel. It's pink, and it's an air character. So the performer steps inside, puts a little belt around his side, and it has a fan and a battery that sucks the air out and fills the shape. So whatever the shape is, and then you've got pulleys and knobs, and you can stick your hands in there. And the Salix Pharmaceuticals, they're a company that creates medicine for lower bowel issues. And I mean, I went to their trade show. There's 1 million people there, and I go, this is all just for your colon. This whole environment, all this millions and billions of dollars spent, and they wanted to engage their doctors that came in. And this was when we knew we had a success. The other engagement technique was you could sit in virtual reality and go through a bowel and see what it looks like.
Oh boy.
So, and that was the big one. This one's really working. This is great. So we want something for maybe the less intellectual.
The kids.
Yeah, the kids.
Get the kids interested in their bowels early.
So they come over to a site or to a part of a booth where you could take a picture with. Why am I forgetting? I'm forgetting his name. He does have a name. Gut Guy.
Gut guy.
Gut
Sure.
guy.
Of course.
Gut guy.
So there's a lot of bowel humor. Like, hey, what'd you have to eat last night? Oh, I see it.
So if someone wanted to do this for a living, because it sounds like fantastic, what's the method? How do they become a mascot?
Well, in this day, believe it or not, they're working since high school to get. They're going to a college where some colleges give you a full ride if you win the audition to be the character.
No.
Yes. Some very nice collegiate situations like Auburn take care of their performers. So you hone your craft, you get ready. I have asynchronous mascot boot camp training, so you can go online and take training, and you can work with me one-on-one on a Zoom call. And that's really, I've been teaching this for like 27 years, and I've never tried to train the trainer and build, scale that. I just wanted to see these young kids, 12, 20 people in a class, and see them excited about doing this. So you learn, you've got to dance, you got to be able to move, you got to have nonverbal skills, and you have to be passionate, you got to be in shape, and you got to love it. And there's a lot of kids that love it.
Worst interaction you've ever had? The one that was really like, wow, that went south.
When I decided that I thought it would be funny during a particular break in a Bruce Springsteen song that I would open up a box and pull out a little person who was playing a saxophone. I got done. I thought it was great.
No one waved
and I got
you
that.
off
They went, this is what I got. What was that? What was he doing?
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your take on there's all kinds of awareness now of culturally inappropriate mascots.
Well, I worked in an environment that I didn't have those constraints, but I had what I did. It was equal opportunity poking of fun, and I'll tell you that. So first time I was in San Francisco. I wasn't supposed to perform, but I went on a trip with the Phillies. They said, "Hey, why don't you get out and work in front of the San Francisco fans?" I was on the field in front of the bullpen, and Vida Blue was pitching for the Giants at the time. And I'm dancing, I'm moving, and I see him nudging the guy next to him, and I see the other guy take some money from him. Like, I know, what's going on? And he waves me over, and Vida Blue grabs Phanatic by the nose and pulls up so he could look inside the screen, and he says, "I'll be gosh darn, that is a white man." So they had bet. Vida Blue said, that is a black man in that costume. I'm telling you, the way he moves, I know it. And the other guy knew it was me.
Yeah.
So I just thought the thing about connecting to people is just the thing that is so magical with that. And I think what you have to do is realize when I'm in the Midwest, the belly bump is obscene. So in the Midwest, I can't do as much of the belly bump. When I'm in California, I could run out nude and they'd be all happy with me.
We wouldn't notice.
That's right. Yeah, hey.
By the way, so the Hall of Fame, we started this with the Hall of Fame.
It's the Disney for mascots. It's in Whiting, Indiana. It's a small town that embraces British petroleum. They have the largest North American footprint of their refinery there. But Whiting sits out to Lake Michigan, has this gorgeous, beautiful park right up to the. You'd want your daughter to get married there, and they are the little silly city that could. They have Pierogi Festival every year where 350,000 people come to this little tiny town, and the Mascot Hall of Fame was something they wanted. It was part of their brand of the city. It's a 26,000 square foot facility. It teaches STEAM and STEM to kids because everything about mascots has some analytics to it, and it's people are coming from all over the world.
What I love about you, and we get that you're a good guy, and that you're pumped, and you really are the fanatic in a way. You're positive. And your message is positive. The fact that you did it, you undertook something so immense. I'm going to put this together for this big number, and people are going to come, is a real tribute to you. And the story about the reason you did it, and I think everybody in here, everybody listening has seen the tape that motivated you to do it. It was the sausage race, right?
Yeah, well, there's just, because the sausage race, and then one of the players, Randall Simon, who I knew, he just thought, okay, I'm going to whack one of them with a bat, but not maliciously.
So you got 4 sausages running at a game.
Yep, and they've got equal opportunity. There's a Turisto, there is a Brat, a Bavarian. They got it all there. I mean, and the sausage that wins that race, that particular item goes on sale for the next few innings. This is big business in Milwaukee. So they're running by Randall Simon, whacks one of them. They trip and fall, knocks over the Turiso. The Brat wins. Those people are happy. But now suddenly someone has smacked our sausage.
Yeah, with a baseball bat. With a baseball bat.
And this city, even today, Milwaukee will not. We actually had Randall Simon was willing to come to the Mascot Hall of Fame and meet with the executives of the Brewers to bury the hatchet. They wouldn't come. Randall Simon was going to come and say, to have a little bit of fun with it. They still think it was not good for their sausages. I'm like everybody else in the world knew about.
How many views did that tape get? That's got to be like a billion.
I haven't even looked at it well, but it was well over 5 million when I looked at it. And they actually tried to arrest Randall Simon. Right? They were going to take him in and finally said, look, I'll give the performer a signed bat. And she was a woman. She said, yeah, that's great. I'll take it. I'm all good. But they take their sausages seriously in Milwaukee. And then I said, hey, why don't we need to honor them. Actually, it was one of my employees that came up, a good friend of mine, Chris Bruce, said, hey, we need to take advantage of this. We got to start telling people that this type of violence is not correct. And we marched on the city of Philadelphia for mascot rights. That was Where Is the Love tour when that song, I forget, was it the Black Eyed Peas?
Where is the love?
Right. Yeah.
Don't sing all that. I got to pay.
What's wrong with
so yeah. Anyway, so we use it.
A vague resemblance of
I
it?
thought it was pretty good. So that was the inspiration. Was one
Which
of my.
I think is terrific. What do you think about branding? Period. You have all of these companies that did branding because it's so important. I remember growing up, Frank Perdue Chickens. It puts a face to a company. The ones that bother me, kind of Charmin Bears walking out with their
Oh, that is
right?
what the hell is happening?
Dad, you got the thing on you.
What pitch meeting did somebody say, hey, we got these blue bears that come out with toilet paper stuck to the tuchus.
Yeah, and that's gonna
sell. And it'll be Charmin because it's soft and
it's a gold mine.
I mean, what the hell?
It's
mascots and business mascots are really important, again, for community, for branding, and they wouldn't do it if it didn't test through.
No, if I said I could, listen, I'm going to create a marketing initiative for you that is going to go out and it's going to deliver your brand message, but it's going to be entertaining everybody, and they're not even going to know they're getting a commercial. There's and they'll go, can I take a picture with you? So they'll take a picture with the brand. They're going to hug your brand.
Right.
They're going to show the picture of your brand going, look, this was just last Tuesday. I'm putting this on the wall. I mean, it is a brilliant marketing strategy to be able to connect to people on an emotional level.
And I will tell you the thing that blew my mind, because I was totally in it as a kid, and then when I became an adult, I went, they conned the hell. So only if you're my age, I'm 63, and Peter, you might remember this. Quisp and Quake. Do you remember Quisp and Quake?
Vaguely, go ahead.
Okay, Quisp and Quake were these two cereals. Now, they're the exact same cereal. They're exactly the same. One was chopped in one shape, one was chopped in another shape. But Quisp was a space alien, and Quake was like a coal miner. And which one is better, kids? Quisp or Quake? And Quisp and Quake would have commercials where they vied for your opinion. And you got behind, and I was Team Quisp. I
There
was
you go.
totally Quisp.
Yeah. How smart.
And I'm going, it's the
Engagement.
same cereal.
But it's engagement.
It
They
was
got you engaged.
absolutely, and you got involved
Yeah.
with it, and you cared about it, and you wanted yours to win. It was
But think about
brilliant.
Think about the cavemen for the insurance company. What was the insurance company? Was it?
Yeah, it was a Geico, right?
Geico.
When-
Yeah,
Geico.
right. Oh, the Geico Caveman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Colonel Sanders. You were Colonel
Yes.
Sanders. You were actually Colonel Sanders.
Yes.
You were, that's right.
He was
oh my
Colonel
gosh.
Sanders.
But it goes back. Smokey the Bear.
Only you can prevent a forest fire. Yeah.
Well,
McGruff,
The crime dog.
the crime dog, McGruff.
Pepperidge Farm raised their sales 26% with the goldfish by naming them and giving them backstories.
M&M's.
And you're eating them.
Yeah.
M&M's.
You're
Keebler
going to love
elves.
them, and then
The
you're eating
Keebler
them. Right.
elves. I mean, it is proven time and time again, if you can create a caricature to represent your brand, which is why I ask you today, why do we not have a brand for the show? Well, you need a mascot for the show.
We're going to get one. Why do you think Dave's here?
Dave, knowing the full, I'm sure you researched our show fully. If we had to have a mascot, what is the character? What would really capture
Throw him in bear
the
with
show?
toilet paper on his head.
This would have to cost you a great investment, and we'd have to spend 4 days in a room alone, take some ayahuasca, go into a sweat lodge, and then we come out and we'll have the idea.
All right, Dave,
Wow.
let's do it. What are you
That's very
doing?
exciting.
Start
Sold me.
tomorrow.
Sold me.
By the way, you thought you were going to convince this guy to give it to free.
Yeah, to give it up for
You know,
free.
one other thing I need explained to me. So when you vet a spokesperson, right?
Yes.
Insurance is a really important thing to get the right spokesperson.
Sure.
So they got Dean Winter, who played Ryan O'Reilly in Oz, the criminal thing.
Yeah.
He's the Allstate guy, okay?
Yeah.
He's the one who... And then you got for Farmers Insurance,
Yeah, you got the guy who
you got Vern
tortured a
Schillinger,
drummer.
the Nazi from Oz. Is that a coincidence, or is that TK Simmons? You got
And
two
by the way,
guys.
JK is one of the sweetest
I know,
guys.
that- understood.
Always
But you
plays
got
guys that'll rip your head off.
Two of
for
the
looking
worst
at
guys
them.
in Oz are now
Yeah.
selling me insurance.
Right.
Does that make sense to you?
No, but if it's working, it seems like those are successful brands.
And the last one is, as we go back to the Tommy Lasorda joke, where I said rodent infestation. How did they sit around a table and come up with Chuck E. My kid used to go to Chuck E. Cheese all the time, and it still, I'm sure, flourishes. The guts it would take to say, you know what? Let's make our spokesperson
And here goes the sponsorship.
a rodent.
Right
Oh yeah. By the way,
right
I
out
understand
the
they were in negotiation with Chuck E. Cheese. To
Really?
sponsor,
No, really.
to sponsor this by Chuck E. Cheese. I'm not making. By the way, I spent more. Have you ever taken a kid to Chuck E. Cheese?
Let me tell you something. More times than you
Okay,
will
so
ever know.
my last experience at Chuck E. Cheese was this. I'm standing there with my previous wife, okay, and I'm standing there with 1 million tokens, and kids are coming up and giving tokens, and she goes, "Why are you giving them all those tokens?" I said, "Because I want them to have a good time." She said, "That's not our party."
Oh, that's great.
Oh my God! But it just always fascinated me.
Well,
And
also, thank you for all those years of
David,
fantastic
you are
information.
for me. I mean,
And-
you're a rock star, dude.
Raymond.
Go ahead.
And Dave Guggenheim, what do you got for us today?
Yes, you mentioned Chuck E. Cheese. Believe it or not, the owner of Chuck E. Cheese, when buying the costume for the mascot, thought he was buying a coyote.
Oh my God, that's wonderful. Thank you for that.
They
That's
later,
brilliant.
they later discovered the mistake, and
You're
the
stuck with
rest
it. You're,
is,
I don't even
David,
remember.
what was your high school mascot?
the North Hollywood Huskies, my friend.
The Huskies.
North Hollywood
The-
Huskies.
I don't remember. I don't remember that we had
We
a
were
mascot.
the Livingston Lancers. Guy on a knight on a horse with a lance. What was yours, Dave?
We were the Yellow Jackets.
The Yellow Jackets.
Yes, we
Can I
were.
say? I just want to wrap up, but I want to say something. And it's a little serious in the sense that in watching David do his thing when it's starting to research it, and he knows I go nuts and I go deep. I got blindsided because you started talking about fun. That it was about fun and distraction. I know you went through your dad dying and I thought I took it one step. It just hit me really hard, and I thought, what? You know what? It translates for me into joy and innocence in childhood. And I realized with this man, the reason I have such a good time, we've been friends for 35 years, is, hey, show me what's in your mouth. It's pull my finger. It's the stuff you hear, the immature stuff we do, but it's the ability to be uncensored and be playful like you were when you were kids. There's so many people that don't do that anymore. You're an adult and you're told stop. I remember in writers' rooms, everybody's joking around and they say stop and get back to the script. And one guy said, no, the funny is what we're doing now. The ability to do this with him and to have somebody like you on, it's so, I'm almost here now, it's so important for people. And it's that childhood playfulness, and that's what we do. We get immature and we get funny, and we don't abuse each other for it. We don't judge each other for it. And when you're allowed to do that and be playful with somebody, it is so joyous and it is so healing. So thank you. That blindsided me when you talked about fun, and I really got it from the Phanatic that you got 60,000 people. Everybody's got a 50-pound bag of cement on their back. Everybody's got a mom with cancer, or bills to pay, or something horrible. And for just that moment in time, they can just escape that. It's a vacation for that, and people need that so badly. So we're really blessed that we found each other, that we're allowed to do this. And Laurie, the people here, everybody does. We play, we laugh, we argue and yell and laugh all the time. And again, can be
Laurie, make sure we underscore this section.
No, non-punishing. It's non-punishing. So it's really that.
No, the thing you said to just to finalize what Peter said. The thing that you said that also struck me is that you look in the stands, and you see men and women of different colors, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different countries of origins, religions, and everything else. But at that moment, united in one thing, and that is joy. And I listened to a gentleman named Sadhguru who says some very profound things sometimes. And he always says, someone asked them about, getting involved with how good you look or should I look better? And he goes, a joyful face is always a beautiful face.
Yeah. Yep.
And what you did, what you spend your life doing, and you still do it now, is it's the creation of joy. It's the sharing.
And
of
you
joy.
got a positive spirit, which comes through.
Which is
big
why
time.
I don't know why I find him so annoying. I just found everything about it. It could be the leftover from the Phanatic.
You know what I love about this show so much? That we giveth and we taketh away.
There's an odor that's still coming from the outfit that
is.
got on
You
him
never get
a little
rid
bit.
of it.
Which is,
It's funny.
thank
We knew
God
he was
he's
here
12 feet away.
before he came in. People started yelling, "Phanatic here? Is Phanatic here?"
You knew he was coming.
I need some vodka and some water.
There you go. Hey, you don't smell anything. If you get enough vodka in you, it doesn't matter.
If you drink it, you're good. David, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. You can watch us. You can interact with us on reallynoreally.com. Tell us a Really No Really that you have. If we do it on the show, we'll send you something. Congratulations. Say your name. We'll send you Dave Raymond in a suit. You can find our new episodes every Tuesday at the iHeart app, the Apple app, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. And please remember to like and subscribe, because that's going to put us in the money. Thank you to producer David Guggenheim, producer Laurie Crimini, everybody here at the Fabulous
Please,
Howie
God,
Mandel
wash your
Studios.
hands. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands and
So important.
enjoy and
So
spread a
important.
little joy. Peter, thank you, sir. I did wash my hands. I know that's what you were
I was
thinking.
looking, going, I'm not sure.
I know.
Not so sure.
We'll see you next time.